So I was reading through some old Spider-Man comics the other day and I came across a character that really fucked with my head a little bit. This is Hobart Brown. Now, some of you might recognize that name, and it's because Hobart Brown is the main universe version of Hobie Brown, the Spider-Punk, and for some reason it never clicked in my head that these two characters were connected. And after making that connection, I read everything I possibly could about Hobart Brown, and it was definitely worth it because this man has a crazy story. So let's talk about Hobart Brown, the original Prowler. Hobart's story starts in New York, where he was working as a window washer, and one day, after robbing a bank, the Stiltman starts rampaging through downtown, trying to shake off Daredevil and Spider-Man. Hobart is cleaning a skyscraper off to the side, but he's unfortunately caught up in the battle and he falls off of his lift. Daredevil was able to save him, but Hobie explains that instead of being infatuated with Daredevil, impressed by everything that Daredevil could do, he was more focused on Stiltman and the amazing bodysuit that he created. Sometime later, after a run-in with J. Jonah Jameson, Hobie would quit his job as a window washer. Now at this time, Hobie is jobless, his girlfriend just broke up with him, and he feels like his life is heading for nowhere. But Hobart is a genius, able to create amazing inventions, so he gets kind of, let's say, an interesting idea. Now, because of the time period and racism, nobody was giving Hobie's inventions a shot, so he wasn't able to make any money off of them. So Hobart gets the idea to show the public what his inventions can do by becoming the Prowler. So Hobart Brown was the original inventor of the Prowler costume. Now, Hobie is a little impatient, so instead of using the Prowler costume to become a superhero, which in his words would take too much time, he decides to use the Prowler costume to commit a robbery, and then as Hobie Brown, he would recover the loot and become famous. And if you want to get your name into the news extremely quickly, what better place to rob than a newspaper? So Hobie decides to go rob the Daily Bugle. Now, unfortunately, Peter is in the room that Hobie breaks into, and he accidentally falls out of the window. Now, it wasn't Hobart's fault that Peter fell out of the window, but he doesn't know that. He thinks that he accidentally pushed Peter, so he starts freaking out, thinking that he's now a murderer. At this exact time, Jameson and Robbie run into the room, see the Prowler, but don't see Peter, and they assume that the Prowler just murdered Peter. So Hobie freaks out and leaves through the window. But just as Hobie's about to escape, he runs into Peter, who was able to change into his Spider-Man costume. Because of his inventions, Hobie was actually able to put up a really good fight against Spider-Man, and because Prowler had no malicious intent or no reason to harm Spider-Man, Peter's Spidey sense wasn't going off, which made this fight a lot harder for Peter. Later that evening, Hobie's thinking about all of the events that happened that day, and the thought of Peter falling out of the window traumatizes Hobart. He can't make sense of what happened, and he believes that his dream of becoming a hero is now gone, and then he gets another idea. Hobie knows that technically Spider-Man is a criminal. He is a vigilante, and he gets the idea to try to capture Spider-Man, deliver him to the police, and be praised as a hero. After tracking down Spider-Man, this time Hobie is easily defeated. And after unmasking him, Peter realizes that Hobie is just a kid. He's really confused, and so far he really hasn't done anything wrong. So Peter decides to let Hobie go. After all of this happens, and because of Spider-Man's good faith, Hobie decides that he needs to retire the Prowler costume, and he stows it away. A few weeks later, Spider-Man approaches Hobie again. See, Spider-Man is in a lot of trouble. See, Peter got a really bad case of the flu, and it disoriented him so much that he accidentally revealed his secret identity to Gwen Stacy, Captain Stacy, and J. Jonah Jameson in the middle of a party. So Peter gets the idea to have Hobie wear the Spider-Man costume while Peter is in the party, so everyone would assume that Peter was just making up stories. And the plan worked perfectly. Whenever Hobie made his appearance, everybody believed that he was really Spider-Man, so Peter was off the hook. But a few weeks later, Captain Stacy is murdered, and Spider-Man is the prime suspect. Now, Hobie remembers that Spider-Man asked him to wear this costume and make an appearance at the party, but he doesn't know why. So Hobie starts to believe that Spider-Man was setting him up as a scapegoat for the murder of Captain Stacy. So he dons the Prowler suit again and tries to bring Spider-Man to justice. Now, obviously, Spider-Man was innocent and he was able to clear his name not only with the police, but with Hobart. So once again, Hobie decides to retire the Prowler costume. At least for a little bit, because a few months later, the Prowler makes an appearance as a member of the Defenders. Unfortunately, the Prowler only makes a couple appearances with the Defenders and then he goes dark for a little bit. That is until a couple months later when the Prowler starts committing crimes around New York, and obviously Spider-Man is gonna assume that it's Hobie. So Peter visits Hobie in his apartment one night and straight up asks him what's going on, why is the Prowler doing this, and Hobie claims he's innocent. He has no idea who's impersonating him as the Prowler. He even tries to prove his innocence by showing Peter that his costume was still there, but it wasn't. Someone had stolen the Prowler costume. This really pisses off Hobie, and he wants to join Spider-Man in the hunt for the imposter Prowler, but Peter straight up refuses because he doesn't know that Hobie really isn't in on this. Eventually, the imposter Prowler is caught, and Spider-Man does return the costume to Hobie, and he just puts it back into storage, and that's the last we see of Hobie for a while. The next time Hobart makes an appearance, Spider-Man is once again in trouble with the law. Because Spider-Man is having so much trouble with the law, Peter decides that it's too dangerous for him to operate as Spider-Man right now, but he still wants to be a hero, so he goes and visits Hobie. Hobie had been working on a new invention, so he decides to give Peter an entirely new suit, turning Peter from Spider-Man into the Hornet. So Hobart Brown not only invented the Prowler suit, he also invented the Hornet suit, which is super cool. Peter would operate as the Hornet intermittently throughout the Identity Crisis storyline, and after the storyline ends, Hobie goes dark again for a while. Sometime later, at the beginning of Null's invasion of New York, Hobie and his girlfriend are just eating in a restaurant when a symbiote creature crashes through the wall. Hobie is able to react extremely quickly, and he's able to put on his new costume as the Hornet, and this suit is so sick because it looks like he combined the original Prowler costume with the original Hornet costume. It looks like you got aspects of both of them together, and it looks so fucking cool. After Null's invasion, Hobie's company, Fair Gray Pay, is bought out by the Beyond Corporation, so Hobie decides to find out why. Why does Beyond want Fair Gray Pay? So Hobie gets the idea to dress up in his Hornet costume and break into the Beyond Corporation. After breaking in, Hobie runs into Dusk, who says she's looking for Johnny Gallo, otherwise known as Ricochet, who's been missing for a couple weeks. They make their way through the Beyond Corporation, and eventually they run into Ricochet, who's not only perfectly fine, but has actually become an employee of the Beyond Corporation. And Ricochet actually convinces Hobie to become an official employee of the Beyond Corporation. And that's the last time that we saw Hobart Brown. He's still working as the Hornet for the Beyond Corporation. It's so cool to see where the original Prowler suit came from, where the original Hornet suit came from. And it's so cool that he's the main universe version of the Spider-Punk. I don't know why I never got this connection before. But let me know in the comments. What do y'all think about the story of Hobart Brown, the original Prowler? And if you like this video, follow if you want to see more.